Okay, so you guys want to take a deep dive into historical perspectives on like public discourse and moral judgment?
Mm-hmm.
And we found a fascinating piece of writing
Yes.
from Albert Pike's 1878 book, Morals and Dogma of the Ancient and Accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry.
Right.
Now, before you think we've gone full-on secret society here, I promise we're not going to be talking about rituals or anything like
God,
that.
you want to know.
We're really zeroing in on Pike's surprisingly relevant insights about how we view and judge each other, especially in our modern world.
Right.
And it's interesting to think he was writing this when newspapers were just becoming like a big deal.
Yeah, it's incredible how relevant his words are even today.
Yeah.
And I think what's so fascinating is that even though this is from a specific Masonic text, the message about humility, slander, and judging others,
Yeah.
it's really universal. And I think you might even find that his words hit even harder today than they did back then.
Totally. And it's true. It's like looking in a dusty old mirror and seeing our own reflection kind of staring back at us.
Mm-hmm.
For example, Pike talks about how 1,000 presses are busily engaged in maligning the motives and conduct of men.
Right.
It's like he was predicting today's 24/7 news cycle and the constant barrage of opinions on social media.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It is.
It's like the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Totally.
And what really struck me was how he uses this analogy of a hospital ward.
Okay.
He describes how the patients, instead of focusing on healing, are completely absorbed in criticizing each other's ailments.
Wow.
And it's such a powerful image, I think, because it reflects how public discourse often becomes this negative space where we tear each other down instead of offering support or understanding.
Yeah, it really makes you think about those who are on the receiving end of all that negativity, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's easy to forget that there are real people behind the headlines, families and individuals who become collateral damage when someone is publicly judged or shamed. And Pike drives this point home when he says that every blow at this husband and father lacerates the pure and tender bosoms of that wife and those daughters.
Right.
It's a stark reminder that words have a ripple effect, often reaching far beyond their intended target.
Absolutely. And I think what's crucial here is that he doesn't just leave us with this bleak picture.
Okay.
He offers a way forward.
Okay.
A solution that starts with shifting our focus inward. Instead of constantly scrutinizing and criticizing others, he encourages personal reflection and self-improvement.
Okay.
He reminds us that everyone makes mistakes,
Sure.
that we're all human, and that judgment should really start with ourselves.
It's like he's talking about this like spy mentality. Like
Mhm.
judging others can become a habit,
Right.
a way of life instead of focusing on our own growth.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder in our world of information overload,
Yeah.
where we're constantly bombarded with all this like news and opinions.
Yeah.
How can we even avoid falling into that trap?
Right. And especially
when
when we only get like these snippets of information without the full context.
Exactly.
So it's a brilliant question, and it's incredibly relevant to Pike's message because he's urging us not to be passive consumers of information,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to like these really strong emotions that are attached to it.
Right.
Like think about how often we react to a headline without even like, clicking on it and reading the article.
Oh, totally.
He was worried about this.
It's so true.
He was worried about manufactured lies even back then, and that was before the internet.
I know.
So like it's really highlighting the importance of critical thinking now more than ever.
Totally.
Like not just accepting everything we read or hear as like the whole truth.
It's like that old saying, like, don't believe everything you think.
Right.
And this whole discussion just makes me think about how quick we are to judge,
Mhm.
especially online. It's like everyone's a critic, but Pike reminds us that true change begins with self-reflection, not pointing fingers.
Exactly. And it's not even just about judging others.
Yeah.
It's also about recognizing the limits of our own understanding.
Okay.
Like he talks about providence, which is this idea that there are forces at play beyond our comprehension.
Right.
And he's not saying that we should be passive,
Right.
but I think he's saying that like approaching the world with a little bit of humility and awe, like acknowledging that we don't have all the answers,
Sure.
can be incredibly freeing.
There's something to be said for acknowledging the mystery of it all, right?
Yeah.
Instead of trying to control everything. Like maybe it's about embracing the unknown,
Totally.
being open to different perspectives.
Absolutely. And I think, like think about a time when you were like so certain about something
Oh, yeah.
and then you find out later like, oh, I was so wrong.
Happens all the time.
It happens to all of us.
All the time.
But I think that's what he's challenging us to do, like to resist the urge to kind of impose our very limited view on the world and instead be open to like the vastness and the complexity of it all. It's about recognizing that our individual perspectives, however strongly we feel about them, are really just pieces of a much larger puzzle.
So what does this all mean for us, here and now, listening to this in 2024? It feels like we're constantly being told to, take sides and judge quickly and just have an opinion on everything.
You're absolutely right. And that's actually why I think Pike's message is so timely.
Yeah.
You know, he's not advocating for just like passivity in the face of injustice or wrongdoing,
Right.
but he's urging us to kind of engage with the world thoughtfully,
Right.
to choose our battles wisely and to approach these disagreements with a spirit of understanding rather than condemnation.
Yeah. It's a call for more empathy, more critical thinking, and a whole lot less judgment.
Precisely. That's a challenge worth embracing. What do you say?
Absolutely. So as you move through your day, think about how you can incorporate a bit more of Pike's wisdom into your own life?
Hmm.
How can you be more discerning about the information that you're taking in? How can you practice greater empathy and humility when you encounter different viewpoints? It's a lifelong journey for sure, but I think it's one worth taking.
Well said. The world could certainly use a little more of that right now.
Couldn't agree more. Well, hey, thanks for taking this deep dive with us. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep the conversation going.